This episode of Pick Up the Six podcast is sponsored by Allbirds. I've been an Allbirds customer for years because their shoes look great, they're super comfortable, and they make shoes and clothes that are better for you and better for the planet by using revolutionary premium natural materials. As a runner, I'm also looking for a shoe that feels and fits great out on a run, and so I'm pumped to tell you about the Allbirds Tree Flyer. I have a pair and they are great. The Tree Flyer is lightweight, super springy, and wildly comfortable, making your running efforts of all shapes and sizes feel surprisingly effortless. They provide unbelievable cushion and comfort, so even your toughest runs are easier on your body. I noticed from step one when I put these on, they just felt great, and that's thanks to the Swift Foam midsole. It's lightweight and big on cushion and energy return. I recommend these shoes because I wear these shoes. I have the orange ones. Plus, they have loads of other great stuff too. And they're hooking you up with a free pair of Allbirds socks on your next order of $50 or more. Just use the promo code PICKUPTHESOCKS. Pretty good, right? Pick up the socks at allbirds.com on your next order of 50 or more, and you're getting a free pair of socks from those guys. Lace up the Tree Flyer and get running today at allbirds.com. That's allbirds.com. The MidState Mile is a last man standing endurance event held in Tennessee. This yearly rite of passage is more than just a race. It's a fellowship event. Our guest today is John Grdina, and he just ran in his first MidState Mile, and he joins us to talk about the experience and the lessons learned. We also have a great conversation about faith and the freedom that comes with holding ourselves to a higher standard through accountability from others around us. This is Pick Up the Six podcast. Brian Jodas back for another episode of Pick Up the Six podcast. I've got John Grdina on the line today. John, good to see you, man. Good to finally do this, my brother. How you doing?
Let's go, man. I'm doing great, man. I'm ready to roll.
You look rested and relaxed after what was a busy weekend last week. And we're going to talk about we're just going to get to know you. We're going to talk about the Freedom to Ascend, a book that you've written, but really also want to talk about your experience at what is emerging as this incredible endurance event, but also community event in the MidState Mile. Yeah. And friends of ours are a big part of it. And folks that you've known for a long time, longer than I have, are a part of it. And it's one of those things that for the last 2 years, I've sort of watched from afar with some FOMO, and we've talked to Jeff Forrester about it. We talked to Aaron about it. And I was like, let's get John on, because I know he had a very meaningful weekend there, not just a great long run, but a meaningful weekend. I want more people to know about this event, because I think, again, I'll go back to, it's a physical endurance event, but I don't know that I've seen a lot of events that have the level of sort of community just building around it. Maybe that's just my perception, but you can tell us a little bit more. So we're just thrilled to get to have this conversation, talk about all that stuff today.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm just tell you what, just real quick, the MidState Mile is more than perception. It's reality. I mean, we got there Friday night, and before the 5K, Amy Stevens from Salty Britches, she prayed over everyone before it even started the 5K. So right then and there, I knew that this race is just totally different than anything I've experienced before. Yeah.
So here's what it is. It's an endurance event. It's outside of Franklin, Tennessee. John Cox, race director, another guy that we know, and just fortunate to get to make these connections through guys like Jeff Forrester, Tim Douglas, Mighty Warrior Council. Shout out to all those guys. And to me, it's another great example of in a world full of tough stuff on social media and divisiveness and evil, there's real community that gets built, I think, in some of these things. And look, I'm a proponent for proximate accountability as much as possible, but we are able to make, I think, real connections. And I think that's a big reason why that thing's grown. So anyways, it's this treacherous 1 mile loop with 340 feet of elevation gain just per lap. So tell us about it, right? Paint the picture for what it is. We're going to get to know you too, talk about your background, but on the front here, tell us what this race is, what drew you to it, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about your experience this year.
Yeah, what drew me to it was I was following Jesse Itzler, and I saw that he was there, and then Chad Wright, who I didn't know yet, and Mark Brown. The three Warriors went up north to Franklin, Tennessee together, and I watched that race unfold, especially at the end with Greg Armstrong. And those who don't know, it was just a unbelievable race that Chad and Greg Armstrong had. So I saw this video and I said, this race looks just different. There's something different about it.
Yeah.
So then I thought about signing up for the next year, but I wasn't ready yet, and that's okay. So I witnessed again another great race between Chad and Luke and Aaron Dana, who came in third place. And just there was, and before the race even began, Jeff Forrester baptized Jason Bear the day before. So I'm like,
this is not like any race.
No, it's not. And it's more than a race, and it's more than just a mile. So, I put my stake in the ground after last year's conclusion of the race. And I started mapping out for next year. And I thought, well, I got to just keep training, just to feel like I was worthy of being on that path of having a good day there, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to try it out. Because I'm going to be honest, you don't know what you don't know until you get there.
Yeah.
And you think you know what you're doing until it knocks you in the face because of the way the course is set up. So you want me to talk specifically about the course, or when I got there? How do you want me to go?
Yeah. So check this out. So, and one thing I didn't mention, we've talked about being an endurance race. It's a last man standing, right? So everybody starts, and it's basically you versus you. Yeah, you versus everybody else, but it's last man standing. Tell me, before you talk about the course and sort of your experience there, how far Chad, I think, had won it 2 years in a row, 2020, 2021, if my memory is correct. And you guys know
he
Chad,
did.
307 Project, former SEAL, Warrior for Christ. Just, one of the baddest dudes in the best way possible, I think, on the planet. And he puts it on his sleeve every single time. It's one of the things I respect about him the most. So he's won the last 2 years. How far had he gone in those last 2 years? Do you remember? I know it was over.
I think it was.
Right? Well over 24 hours. What were they looking at the last couple of years?
I think the first year when he ran, it was somewhere like 34, 35 hours. And then I think last year was 37.
Yeah.
Which put him at like 37,000 feet of elevation in 120 miles or 119.
Yeah. So
this year with Chad did not run, but two guys who broke Chad's record from last year was Eric Keenley, who I had on my podcast. So that'll come out next week.
Nice.
And also Ultra Dad, his name is Justin Hamilton. So they both ran. Obviously Justin Hamilton won it. So he ran for 40 hours, which is crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Crazy. And almost 40,000 feet of elevation. And then Eric was just right behind him. It was like 39 hours, 40 minutes. So just think about that.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. It's crazy numbers.
How does it logistically work? So it's 1 mile loop. Are you heading out at the top of the hour every hour? Paint the picture for us for how the logistics of this race actually work.
Okay. So you have 20 minutes to get through the loop, which is 1.1 miles. And that 0.1 actually is crazy because it's the most hottest spot of the race.
As you're coming back in.
As you come back in, it's the hot, because most of it's in the shade because you're in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come down this hill and you come out to just literally just total bright sun.
Yeah.
Just getting beat down. And you think like, it's no big deal, but it makes a difference because you got to get to the corral where your stuff is. And
dude, I've been on the leg of a Blue Ridge relay race. And it's leg 11 of the whole race. And if you run it before you know it, you've got to cross 421 and you're finishing at this church and you can see it, right? It's like maybe a quarter mile away. Like you can see it's right there. It feels like it takes forever. Yeah.
That's kind of how that last 0.1 mile felt.
Right. Every time.
So every time it really, and you see people walking it because they're trying to get their heart rate down. I see people fall down.
It collapse at the end of that part.
Yeah. It's a weird part. Just the way that the terrain's, it's all mulch and it's not flat really. It's kind of on a bend a little bit. I'll be honest, that was probably one of the worst. The downhills were the worst besides the climbs, but that was just not that anything was bad.
It's a mental hit.
Yeah, it was mental.
And that's probably mental. On purpose.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
So the way the course is designed is it's a quarter mile out through, I would say, just a path, a couple streams that you run over with some rocks.
Traditional trail runners would recognize that kind of terrain.
Absolutely. Then you get a quarter mile into it, and then you got a quarter mile ascent. And I tell you what, no joke. It felt like as the race goes on, you don't look up because it's not a mental thing. I still have to go to that point. So I would just keep my head down, get to the top. You'd be a flat area, and then it'd be a little bit flat. Then it would slowly start a descent, and then it would be pretty hard downhill. And then it's a figure eight. So you would have an intersection at the point of your descent. And then you go a little bit, maybe like an eighth of a mile, where you're going pretty much flat, and then another ascent, which wasn't as long, but it's still grueling. And then you have another descent. And then, like I said, you go to this open area where the sun beats on you, and then where you go back to the starting line. So
how many people? Yeah. I just, no.
It sounds like, yeah. I think there was 90. I think there was 90 people. Mm-hmm.
So they have to have grown every single year, I would think, with those kind of numbers, which is awesome. Super excited for John and company over there for what they've built in this thing. Those leaders, right? So the lead guys that ultimately end up out there for 40 hours.
That's crazy,
man. Are they staying together? What's the actual, the loop like, right, when you're out there? Because 20 minutes is 20 minutes. And I would think most folks you don't want to rush through it. You kind of want to use your time appropriately to conserve some energy to be able to do that. So what's it like out on the course with all those folks?
Yeah, I mean, like me personally, I was, for the first, actually almost every loop, I was coming in between 17 and 18 minutes. That was like clockwork. Like it was perfect. The first 24 loops for me was just like between 17 and 17 and a half. And I had my watch, and I would know where I needed to be at the intersection, which was 3/4 of a mile into the race.
Yeah.
The loop. And it's supposed to be around 11 minutes. So if I got there at 11 minutes, I knew I can get back to the beginning in about 6 minutes.
It's a good mental checkpoint, right? Like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it was funny because Justin, who won it, now you're bringing back a good memory, just past the intersection, before we get to the next ascent, he's like, man, I had to just be at this tree by 12 minutes. And if I got to the tree, he picked out a tree, which that was his
everybody's
strategy.
got their thing, man.
Yeah. So he's like, if I'm by this tree at 12 minutes, I'm golden. And he just to get in a groove. So back to your question, Brian, like, how did it work with all the runners? I think the really good runners of this race were always ahead. So they were coming in probably 16 minutes, somewhere in between 16 to 17 and a half, right in that frame. And they were just consistent with it. It was just, because one of the things is that people don't realize that whenever you get in, let's say you get in at 17 minutes, then you have 3 minutes to, let's say, rest, hydrate, fuel, cool down, and then go back out. And I'll be honest, the first 24 miles of this race, I don't even really remember, because it was clockwork. It was just boom, 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 boom. And then my cousin, who lives in Nashville, he's like, hey, Johnny, he's like, you're almost at a marathon. And it hit me like, oh my God, I'm almost at a marathon already. So then he ran the marathon loop with me, which was cool. And then after 8 hours, then you finally get pulls, which, let's see, 8 hours in, we were, right around that marathon time of getting pulls, which definitely helped because, like I said, I wear my watch and I have.
Could you have them whenever you want, or is there a specific time in which they are allowed on the course?
You're only allowed to have them after running for 8 hours.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. And I think probably at that point, maybe 40 people were left, or 35, somewhere in there. Because when I got knocked out myself, I was, I think, 20th. Yeah. And that was 13 hours in.
Did you have a crew going to help you through the process? Right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of moving parts, bro.
Huge. Yeah. So the most important thing besides being physically ready is knowing your nutrition of what you can eat or what you can't eat. So I've learned that from other races previous, but the crew so important. Like my friend Scott Kraft, I love to death, who came down with me and my mom. They were both essential in helping me. So we already had a plan. I would drink Tailwind. He would make it up. I had to drink a half a gallon of Tailwind every 3 hours. Okay. I just did the math of 200 calories per hour, the way we mixed it, making sure I got that in with electrolytes. I'd have a salt tab every other loop I'd come in. I had a cooling towel, which helped immensely, because you don't know the heat. The heat's brutal.
Oh yeah.
Even if your heart, think about this, your heart rate's going up on the climbs, and you have the high humidity, and you have about almost 90 degrees. So you have all these factors against you. So I adapted, and I wasn't planning on having a cooling towel while I ran, but it really did help out keeping my body temperature down. But the crew, the crew, like, they were on point. I would literally sometimes have a cooling towel over my head where I would just like hold my hand out and just say like Rice Krispie treat or honey stinger or give me the salt tab.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, he knows what he needs right there. And it was efficient. It literally was a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, what's your go-to, because sometimes when you hit that 20-mile mark, and most people might think, oh, you got to be starving. Of course you're hungry. You're going to want to eat. The stomach and the gut is a weird creature in those moments, but you've got to be able to get calories in. And I love Tailwind too. It's great on long runs. It's the cleanest. This is like a free ad for Tailwind. It's the cleanest sports drink I think I've ever consumed. It's like, the problem with some of the other ones is like, you can almost taste them. This thing goes down super smooth, which that's why I'm a huge fan of it. You can literally drink it all day. But you've got to get more, right? You got to get, like you said, Rice Krispie treats or honey stingers. Any other secret food sources for you that you found that become a good go-to?
One thing that they had at the race, and my mom actually brought some too, is watermelon. Watermelon was great. It has a lot of, So like, they're right when you cross the line to get in to the corral, they had a table set up with drinks and food for all runners to take whenever they wanted. So they had Hoist there, which is a hydration drink. So I literally started doing shots of Hoist too, and have either watermelon, maybe every other time. But no heavy foods. I cannot eat anything heavy at all while I run. So I know that. That's why I keep everything light. So like I said, my go-tos were honey stingers, Rice Krispie treats, watermelon, and then Tailwind. That was pretty much what I used for fuel. It worked. Yeah, I had no stomach issues.
That's good. Well, that's good, because if it goes south, it can be a trouble. Funny story, man. I remember a couple of years ago, my friend John Fry, organizer of the Oakwood 24, which is a 24-hour endurance event in our local area. They run it through this historic cemetery, and it's a big fundraiser for a men's rehabilitation clinic in our area called Healing Transition. So it's a great event, and it's one of those events that, and it's just it's a 2-ish mile loop. And they just run it for 24 hours. You can run it at whatever speed you want, right? You can run it at whatever pace you want. And it's one of those deals where if you go out there with them, you could look up and all of a sudden you're like, dang, I just ran 15 miles, 20 miles. Like you're just doing it at a 10-minute pace and you're cruising. And he does the full 24, and he's usually at 104, 108. But he had a guy 2 years ago named Davis Jones, who's been in our podcast before. Great guy. And he was going for 100, his first 100 ever. And it was just John and Davis at the end. They were the last two kind of standing. And Davis got to like 94 miles, and he wasn't sure if he was going to make it. And he texted his wife, and she was on her way back to watch him finish. And he was like, can you go get me a double cheeseburger from McDonald's? Like, that's hilarious. That's what I need right now. He ate that thing. And Fry's wife, Jackie, grabbed him by the shirt, said, you're finishing. And they got him out there. He finished his last 2 laps.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So everybody's got different ways of
doing it. No, it's,
you can eat whatever you want at that point.
To be honest, like I've heard of people having pizzas while they're running, whatever. But I think what people have to realize, if you do a long race, is you have to do the trial and error with your nutrition. Yeah, because if you go say, oh, I'm gonna try this while I go out there today, or
no, bro,
you
what
can't
if it
do that.
South on you, man, you're in trouble.
No, you have to try out all things prior to the race. And I definitely learned that because I had a race called the Bigfoot, my first ultra. Man, it's not what I ate, it's what I didn't eat. I was so malnutrition had malnutrition on that race that my whole body seized up after the race, like spasms, cramps. And I'm like, why would I do that? Why would I torture my body like this?
Yeah.
So I just, you learn.
Yep.
And I guess what, if I didn't have that experience, there's no way I could have done very well in this race and in future races as well. So
yeah,
it is what it is, right?
Dude, I shot myself in the foot on my first marathon. I skipped a nutrition, a planned nutrition early in the run, right? Because we were just feeling good. We're out at a good pace. And you look back and it killed. I bonked big time at 20.
Yeah.
Hit that wall at 20. And I know it was because we had trained so much. It's like, why did I do that? Why in that moment did I do that?
Because you feel fine. And the problem is with runners is you're fueling not for that moment, you're feeling for the future.
Yeah.
So like you're feeling for an hour later. So if you don't have the nutrition now, an hour later comes in your body, all those,
hey, I'm ready for it. It's too late now.
Yeah, it's too late. And you start bonking, you get really down, no energy. And the thing is I tell everyone on this podcast that, if you're a runner or endurance athlete, like you better know your nutrition and do a systematic format that you just stick with it. And if you think you don't need it, you need it. So it's better to have than have not. That's for sure.
Drink before you're thirsty, eat before you're hungry.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to talk more about the rest of your life, right? I know you're a teacher, author, podcaster. I'm not sure what you can't do, but before we do that, how does the day end up for you? How's the experience end up? How far did you go? What was it like?
Yeah. So, I had a goal going in. The most I've ever run before was 40 miles and elevation gained. The most I've ever run in a race was 4,500. So I thought to myself, well, if I could break 40 miles and if I could break 10,000 feet of elevation, that's a win for me. So I ran for 43.3 miles and I had 13,100 feet of elevation. So I wanted to experience the whole race. So the one thing I told myself is I want to get to the intermission. It takes place after 12 hours. And after the intermission, I did it. Now I know what I know now, right? I laid on my back. I felt like my lungs were suffocating because I didn't have that expansion. So what I mean by that is if you ever ran really hard, okay, sometimes it feels like you just can't breathe. And that's how I felt. And it was from those long grinding ascents. So two things I learned is one, don't lay down on my back, get up in a chair that kind of puts your feet up. Number two, I need to push my lungs more in training than just lower heart rate. What I would do is I would do once a week of like a HIIT workout, which I didn't do, and really push my lungs to a little bit of a larger volume to get used to that expansion. Because you don't realize it, but man, it's almost like a tear of your lungs of how much strain you go through hour after hour. But I got to another part of the race that not a lot of people experience is the dark. And I got to use my headlight. I went 3 loops. And it's a different experience because you're in really like almost this isolation. And I run in the dark in the morning. That wasn't the problem. The problem is that I was by myself and I should have stayed with somebody to have some sort of conversation. And if I would have done that, I think I would have went a lot longer because I read a post that Luke had who came in 3rd place this year and 2nd last year. And he's like, oh, we were joking, having fun. We were pushing each other. And I was like, man, if I would have just stuck with them, I know I would have went further because I wasn't only by myself in my own mind where you get distracted by conversation and you definitely go further. So just lessons learned, things that I know now for next year.
That's where, when you watch Chad, to kind of go back to him a little bit, I think that's where he often looks for, and that's that warrior mindset of how can I get a leg up here? Right? Like, can I get this guy isolated? And look, man, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. on an endurance event like that, it's just, you can train for a lot of things. I don't know that you can train for that. I think you've got to be able to compartmentalize. And that's kind of a key component of a special operator. Those guys have to be able to compartmentalize. And those elite ultra athletes have to be able to do that. Like you think about the Courtney Dauwalters of the world and all those folks.
Oh, geez,
They can just go into a space that I can't.
Well,
I'd like to think I could a little, but like we can't. But they got another level, man.
Well, I think they do because like I said, like you learn what you know, right? So once you learn something new, you try to plan for it. So, and really is like Chad did say this in his documentary, it's patience. So you can't get dark thoughts in your head. And then that's what happens is I'm not going to win the race. These are the thoughts that go through it. I'm not going to win the race. I met my goal. Why am I doing this? Those are all bad thoughts. And when I interviewed Eric yesterday, he said the best thing is your goal should not be a certain mileage. Not at all. Your goal should be you go until you can't go, and you take one loop at a time. So if you took one loop at a time, then you're going to win better than saying like, oh, I'm going to run for 24 hours. Does that make sense?
Sure. No, it totally does.
Because you're putting a cap mentally on what you want to do instead of saying I'm going to go until I can't go anymore. And that's something I wish I would have experienced. But, next time I learn, I'm not going to have a goal. It's going to be until I physically can't make it to the 20-minute time restraint that's given to me.
Yeah, we went out in 2019 at that Oakwood 24 and created a little mini documentary. It's about 17 minutes on our YouTube channel. I'll put it in the show notes.
Nice.
And at the very beginning of it, it was a really cool experience for me because a lot of my friends are involved in the race, and we were out there for every moment of it, carrying gear and shooting and all that stuff and collecting footage. And it was really cool to see it. And the way it ended up with John and Davis at the end was a really neat way of going about it. But at the beginning, and John is a former addict. I mean, this guy was at the bottom of the barrel. He tells you in the documentary, I'm chugging a Four Loko as I'm getting dropped off at this rehabilitation center. It saved his life. Now he's this incredible ultra athlete and race director. I mean, it's pretty amazing. But at the beginning, he says, I equate one of these 24-hour endurance events to a lot of parts of my life. And if I'm willing to take it one step at a time or one day at a time, it's just a day, right? One day at a time. Or in this case, it's just a mile, right? If you can
just a mile,
get your brain in that space, I think, you can maybe try to block it all out. In fact, right? Jesus says to his friends, like, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will be of its own trouble, right? Today's got its own trouble, kind of like just worry about today. Take it day by day. Which I think is helpful in something like this.
Yeah, because then you get anxious. Like, I love that you used that verse from the Bible, and I think it was Matthew, either 8. But it's just that we shouldn't be anxious for tomorrow. We should just be present. And so what I did, I had a mantra that I said probably over 100 times while in the course was just be present on a peaceful path to get my mind, because your mind wanders. So I would say it internally, and then I would verbalize it sometimes out loud. I would just tell myself, I know you're struggling. Just be peaceful, be present on this path right now, because that's all you can worry about. And it's all you can control. And once your mind starts to wander, that's when bad things happen.
Oh yeah. That's when the enemy gets a foothold, brother.
That's exactly what happened. It's like in life. I learned the darkness set in. I had this picture. I'll share. There's this picture of me, and maybe if you want to share it on your show of when this episode comes out, there's this one where I'm in the headlight, I'm looking, and I look like I'm okay. And then my last loop, they took one where I'm looking straight down, and it was almost like a defeat, and I was mentally defeated. And it's just a very strong visual for me to say, man, you just you got in your head in isolation with no one around you. And that's something you could have controlled by just pushing a little bit more to be with the group, because they come in herds. Yeah. That's the one thing I would say visually, like as the race went on, the herds got smaller, but there were still herds of people together running. And once you get separated from that, then that's when it's over.
Brother, 43.3 miles, 13,000 feet of elevation. I see you had a pretty successful day.
Yeah. I'm not.
I know you're not done yet. You're not done yet.
Yeah. No, I get goosebumps just thinking about how the goal was met, but I know that personally I could have done better.
Sure. All right. Tell us about the podcast, man, because you've mentioned it, talked about some of those great guests. I want to make sure our listeners can find you, know where you're at. So tell us what you're doing over there.
Yeah. So I started back in November of last year, and it's called the John Grdina Classroom. I think it was fitting being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast I have is about 4 pillars: it's faith, family, fitness, and freedom. So
check.
Yeah. Oh, yep. Yeah. I mean, it's
all my F3 buddies, F3 Fitness Fellowship and Faith.
F3.
Like, yep. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah. And the freedom part really is, really finding out the freedom to do things in your life, of having good habits, whether it's financially, whether it's athletically, whether it's being a good father, being present. Like, freedom to me is allowing you to make choices that ultimately make it a better space or environment for everyone around you. You personally first, but then going out and being a light to everyone. So I always look at it this way. So my book is called Freedom to Ascend.
Yeah.
And it's a good segue, because I'm going to be honest, like, I've learned how to have freedom of peace. And that's another key word, of peace, but also of like who you're surrounding yourself with. So like a lot of eagles, all right. And if I'm on the cover of my book, there's this big bald eagle looking up. See, a lot of the eagles, they're not hanging with the chickens, man, or the turkeys. They don't have a restraint of freedom. They can go wherever they want, when they want. So that's a key in life, is that people need to know that you can do more than what you ever thought possible, but you have to have a vision in your life, and you have to be on a mission of why you're doing what you're doing. And if you don't have those things, you're going to be restrained in that chicken coop. And so many people are in the kitchen coop and are the chicken coop because their mindset is media is gotten so far in, and the enemy's so far in their mind that it's so negative to everyone around them and themselves. They can't get out of the hole. And it's easy to get out of the hole. Get rid of all the negative and toxicity in your life and start living a righteous life by having freedom. And to me personally, is read the Bible every day and go out and pursue your mission. And if you don't know your mission is, just think about what gifts God has given you. Think about what God-given gifts that you have and passions, and just start laying work on that. And then you will meet great people if you choose. Obviously, it's a choice. And once you meet the right people in your life, man, you start becoming elevated and ascending to new levels. And so it's amazing to witness.
Yeah.
So
we have freedoms that I believe are bestowed upon us by our Creator, right? But then we also do have choices. You can create your own level of that freedom. And sometimes, you talked before about talking to yourself while you're on a race. And some people might be like, man, come on, this is hokey. Like, I'm going to give myself motivation. My alarm clock in the morning is labeled, and it sounds silly. And it's a phrase my friends and I used to say because one of my buddy's dads was like super intense. And the phrase is, and my alarm wakes me up and it says, you got to rise with the sun if you want to soar with the eagles. And I'm like, some people might hear that and think, oh, that's kind of hokey. I'm like, fine. I don't care. It gets me up at 4:30 in the morning to get up and go do some hard stuff. And you can create freedom through discipline, right? Discipline equals freedom. That's a great Jocko Willink line. Discipline equals freedom. It absolutely does. The hard things actually set you up to be able to do more things that you want to do.
Well, you know what? What I was thinking about post-race was this, more times that you put yourself into situations or experiences that are difficult, other things that you thought were difficult before become easy. So here's an example. I said, I used to hate doing the trash on Monday after a long day of work. And I have a lot of animals in my house, and you have to do all these tasks that were awful. So I shifted my mindset once I started running and doing push-ups every day and pull-ups and really just grinding physically, that I said to myself, this is ridiculous that you think doing a task or these tasks for 15 minutes to maybe half an hour, that I used to get, mad, like really mad. And now I changed my mindset. This is easy. You are choosing to be emotional about it. That was the problem. And once you have emotions into situations, then your mindset becomes corrupt. So think, if anyone listening to this right now, What things are you very emotional about? And stop being that way. Start thinking about the process, what needs to be done, how to do it efficiently with a joyful heart. Seriously, even if it's picking up crap. And that's what I'm talking about, literally.
Yeah.
Joyfully, because you're making a situation better for your animals and your family in an environment that's, healthy, instead of being like selfish and be like, well, why do I have to do this? Why is it me? Be responsible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do things that suck. And once you start doing more things that suck with joy, there's a pivot that goes on in your mind and in your soul that says, you know what? I'm blessed to be able to actually do these things because I have legs to walk and hands to work. And I'm telling you what a difference it makes in your mindset. Totally different.
Yeah.
It's joyful.
Yeah. It's joyful, and it's removing yourself. Right? Yes. It's removing you out of the center of the universe. And that's what's hard for a lot of people, because the ego gets a hold, and sometimes it's hard. You got to disavow yourself of that notion, Big, and you're not the center of the universe. And so, you and I might say, listen, I can find that perspective, and I can find that joy, and I can find that ability by reading scripture, which I know helps me quite a bit. Let's say it's not your thing. And let's say it's not your thing. I would advocate that it could or should be. But if it's not, maybe you just take a minute. I was talking to Janelle McCauley about this the other day. She's talking about mindfulness. She says, some people take 10 minutes to meditate. She takes 10 1-minute breaks throughout the day to meditate and just think, take a breath, center on your breathing, try not to think about anything else other than your breathing. I bet when you do that, maybe your thoughts can at least go to your concentrica. What can I do to serve my spouse? What can I do to serve my children? What can I do to serve my community? Or just how I'm grateful for my spouse, my children, my community, whatever. And just get yourself out of there.
That's great. You know what? That it's so true, because when I wake up every morning, I always tell myself, I literally do this every morning, and not my whole life. So what I do is I wake up with a grateful heart, and I look to my wife, and usually there's a kid in bed by that time. And I wake up and I said, thank you, Lord, for giving me all these blessings and for all these things that I've always wanted in my life when I was younger. And now I have them. So never let me take it for granted. And then I go downstairs and I pray. And I've been doing the prayer, Brian, since 2015. You want to talk about a game changer? Like if you wake up and pray immediately, you are honoring the Father. And when you do that, he'll honor you. Okay. So you're giving him time to get to know him and have an actual relationship with him. It's not about going to church once a week. It's about having a relationship every day. And the stronger that relationship is with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, guess what? Then they dwell in your heart and in your soul. And once that happens, you could actually become more of the salt and the light to others, because they get to witness the heart of Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, people are, and this is the one thing I know, and I'll go back to the race because this is very important. This is probably the most important thing about the race. We're going to talk about the fellowship. So when Scott Kraft and I came down, we have never met our friends like Jeff Forrester, Mike Bellini, Tim Douglas, Aaron Dana, Ben Goins, all these guys we met the first day when we got to the race. And as we came home that night to be at a cabin, and Jeff Forrester came with us, because I said, buddy, I'm not letting you sleep in a tent. I have an extra bed. Take a shower, get some food so you're ready for the race day. And when we were driving home, Scott was like, John, these guys that we're hanging around with, okay, are exactly who they are online. We never met them before. So through Instagram and through our men's group, the authenticity of the character of who they are it was so clean and crisp that there wasn't a break in like, I'm the John Grdina on Instagram showing off how I am this way. And then when I'm around you in the flesh, I'm different. So we learned this. Character matters. Okay. Who you are 24/7 is probably one of the most important things to be an authentic Christian, especially because most people hate Christians who go to church Sunday. And then guess what? On Monday, they're pissed off at the world, talking, swearing, they're all, drinking,
Yeah, what's that song, right? Like, what if the church on Monday was the church on Sunday too?
Yeah, right.
Like, you're just going to go right back to those habits.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. And that's why Christianity gets a bad rap, because there's non-authentic Christians. So to be authentic as a Christian, you have to have character, and it's got to be consistent. And that's what I love about the people in my circle is I have those people there, and they push me to become a better person. And they call me out when I'm not doing the right things.
Yeah. Bro, I hear you loud and clear, and I'm not trying to make too big a deal out of it. And I hope this doesn't sound hyperbolic, because I don't mean it to. I believe that the Creator is aligning people like you and Jeff Forsters of the world, because there is some spiritual war play at hand, and he needs his warriors ready to lock shields to battle against it. And I firmly believe that in my heart. And so what can we be doing every day to continue to sharpen the blade a little bit and be ready for whatever's coming around the corner?
I would say this for everyone. You want to, if you feel like, just, I'm going to parallel back to my race, like in isolation, that's the enemy. Okay. Nothing good happens in isolation. So that's why it's so important to have a strong group of men or women in your life. Okay. Get in the word, be around great people, and literally love on people without judgment, and grow in your faith, grow in every area of your life. But if you don't have the right people in your life, and it doesn't have to be family members. Like, my family is awesome. I'm so loved and supported by my family, but some people may not have that. And they say, well, if my family doesn't love me, then how can someone else love me? Dude, there's so many people out there that would generally give their life for you.
Yep.
You're not asking, or you're not stepping out of your comfort zone to meet new people. That's the problem.
I would make the argument that you need people outside of that concentric family.
Yeah.
That's where I think some additional candor, right? I'm going to hold you to a hard truth, but I'm going to hold you to it because I love you, right? I think that comes with what we call in the F3 world a shield lock, right? A shield lock is 3 to 4 guys that can get around you, that can get their hands dirty with you, that can actually help you do parts of life because of real candor and love, because you love those people, and because we're proximate, we're purposeful, and we're periodic, right? Because we meet with that kind of intentionality. And I think that's important. Check this out, right? I love you. We've never met in person before.
No.
I can tell.
Yeah, I love you too, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right? And so, like, let's lean into that space a little bit and see what we can do to keep picking everybody else's 6 up, right?
That's right.
My brother, we could do this all day. You got little ones. We got things to get to, so I can't keep you on here all day. I'd love to. We could Rogan style this thing, but maybe you come back and we dig in, because I'd love to talk about 40 days of deliverance too at some point.
Yeah, I'll just end with that. 40 days of deliverance starts next month. Okay, at the beginning of the month, and I'm starting. This is my 3rd time running the session. I actually wrote a devotional for it. I just got the email this morning that it's published on Amazon. So it can be available to purchase, but just like we talked about, the fellowship and the people in your life. I have met like my friend Cornbread and Chris Fabish, and I got Josh Robertson. I'm just thinking I've had so many great people. My father's been loving this, because there's this fast period where you get really in tune with the Spirit. But here's the point, is that God commissioned me to do this program, gave me a vision back in May of 2021. And I'm just being obedient to what he's advised me to do. We have people now in Canada and Great Britain. I've been given the vision that it'll be worldwide. But what it's supposed to do is to give you discipline, obedience, and fellowship. And this book, finally, all right. So I wrote my first book, and it was published, Freedom to Ascend, in April. This book is already published now in June. So these things I just give to God, because he's been allowing me to use my gifts to do this for him, for his kingdom. So this 40 days book, you could be with me during the journey, but also I believe you could do it with other people, not separate of the group. Does that make sense? Like, as long as you have the book, the book is the manual.
So you got to do it on your own. Yeah,
you can. It's recommended to go through one time at least with my group. If not, it's okay. You got to be with someone else though, because you have an accountability partner. You can, and I'll see Jesus when he had his disciples, when they would go to a town, he would never send them by themselves. They would go in pairs. And there was a reason for that. And I love Jesus' leadership, is because he knew that if in case the enemy came, whether spiritually or physically, that they had each other's back, right? And that was so important. And this is what I love about this program, is that you have love and support from the group that's like I've never seen before. I've never seen a group of people be so bonded. And when I was at the race, my friend Cornbread, he came out of nowhere. Literally, he told me he wasn't coming because his cousin got hurt in a bad accident. And he went to the hospital with his wife, and he came about 6 o'clock that night at the race. And I was elated to see him and his wife, Ann. Now, let me ask you something. How many groups are you a part of that someone would literally come and drive to see you to showcase your best effort? Or to come see you?
Yeah, I hear you. I've seen that play out in my life through F3 for what these guys are able to selflessly do. But you're right. It few and far between at that level of depth, right? Of connectivity. I hear you loud and clear.
Brian, I'll just tell you this. If all the wisdom I've learned in my life, there's nothing greater than to see someone pour out their love and support for you, and reciprocal of that. And it's amazing because you witness the heart. I keep going back to this. You witness the heart of Christ within the individual, and that selflessness. And it's so beautiful the way you feel, soul, body, and spirit when that occurs. That was a very high point. And I didn't mention earlier when Cornbread came, because it was like a lift of my spirit. And he was there helping me. He literally was there helping me with my pulls.
Yep.
I'm telling you what, there's no better experience than people being there for you. So everyone out there, I'm telling you, you don't have a group of people in your life, you have an opportunity, whether it's 40 days of deliverance, to meet people. There's groups out there, but you need to get in a group, or else you're just living in an isolated area of your life. And you're not making progress, and you don't have fulfillment, and everyone needs to be loved. You have to.
There's no greater love than a man that's willing to lay down his life for his friends. And
Absolutely.
I don't think it means you ultimately have to perish. I think laying down your life for your friends means, yes, it means that, but it also means doing something outside of yourself, doing something for someone else. I can lay down my time for you. Yes.
And you know what, Brian, the more and more I learn about people is that I'll stop here because I know we go forever.
Yeah.
Think if you could literally shut off bad relationships in your life, just shut them off. Like, you don't have to be rude about it. Shut them off. They're toxic because they're not the people who are going to help you grow. So number one, turn those people off. Turn the media and toxicity of whatever else you're listening to off. Focus on what you can control. Pick a new group of people. It could be just 1 or 2 people to start. Pick a new group of people through a group, or you join a group. Go, like I said, go outside your comfort zone to find these people. Start being around people who are going to elevate you to the next level of your game in life.
Yep.
And then you gotta read and apply. Read and apply the Bible first, other books too. Apply them in your life, because the worst thing I hear what people do is, I've read this book, I read this book, I read this book. I go, well, what are you doing with these books?
Yeah.
Are you applying any of this knowledge? That's a lack of wisdom in my eyes if you're not actually applying what you're learning, right? So
I know I'm tracking in the book when I got a highlighter in hand. Like it's like a textbook.
It is
pulling pieces out. Brother, we could do this all day.
Yeah.
So here's what I'd say, right? What you hear, guys, go find the John Grdina classroom, right? Go get Freedom to Ascend. Go check out 40 Days to Deliverance. You can also find them on Instagram. It's J Grdina, Grdina 04. Right. That's the Instagram account.
Yep.
And that thing's open and ready.
And Brian, Tim Douglas and I, he helped me create my website. It's just johngrdina.com.
Love it.
I'll have information on there, whether it's for 40 days, my book, my story. And I just want to say, I'm blessed to have a beautiful wife. We have 4 amazing children. And you know what? The best thing as a father that I get to witness is weeks like this, where both my sons got a game ball for baseball. They beat the Ninja Warrior course I built for them. And literally, it's like, it's great to be a loving father because I get to see them become just better human beings for not only our family, but for our society, which is so desperately needed. We need to, if you're a parent, a father, especially, you need to become and emulate characters and behaviors that your children need to mimic. Yep. They have to, because if you're not doing it, guess who's doing it? Other people, yep. Someone else's. And then in schools, sometimes there's poor teachers, there's bad behaviors. So you need to be the leader of your household, and you need to be the one showing them how to get the job done, and be present with them. Be present, but we forget that. So everyone out there, presence is essence. It's a gift. You have gifts that you have in your life. So go out and exhaust those gifts for good.
Well said, brother. That's it. Drop the bomb.
I'm stopping there.
Love you, man. What a great episode. I'm so glad we're able to do this. Long overdue, but also just great timing coming off of what I know is an impactful event in your life, and something that you'll carry with you for a long time. And I get to we'll probably see you back out there again.
Absolutely.
Great. He's John Grdina. Yeah, you got it, brother. Have a great day. He's John Grdina. I'm Brian Jodis. That's been this episode of Pick Up the Six podcast.